Hi, this is Titus Welliver. You're listening to TV Confidential.
Ed Robertson welcoming you to TV Confidential, radio talk show about television. Though, welcome back our friend Joyce Bulifant in our second hour. Joyce Bulifant, the actress all of you know from her appearances on such game shows as Password and the CBS Match Game, as well as such films and TV series as Airplane, The Happiest Millionaire, and The Mary Tyler Moore Show. Joyce Bulifant also appears in a new original movie for Amazon that was directed by her son, John Asher. We'll talk to Joyce about that. Plus, as calendar year 2019 marks the 40th anniversary of the release of Airplane, we will ask her about Airplane and a whole lot more when Joyce Bulifant joins us in our second hour. We hope you'll stay tuned for that. Joining us later on this hour will be our friend Herbie J. Pilato. Herbie's latest book is a cradle-to-grave biography of Mary Tyler Moore that, among other things, sheds light into Moore's relationship with her second husband, Grant Tinker, and how that not only changed the face of the Dick Van Dyke Show, but ultimately determined its future. Herbie J. Pilato will join us later on in this hour. In the meantime, we will start this week's show by welcoming Ms. Cecilia Leal. Cecilia is one of the new cast members on Marvel's Cloak and Dagger. Cloak and Dagger is seen Thursday nights on Freeform. She can also be seen in the romantic drama 5 Feet Apart. 5 Feet Apart is playing in theaters everywhere as we speak. Cecilia's other credits include the USA series The Purge and the Audience Network series Mr. Mercedes. She also has a role in an upcoming sci-fi thriller that will soon become available on Netflix. We'll ask her all about that and more in just a second. First, Cecilia Leal, welcome to TV Confidential.
Thank you so much. Thanks for having me.
What can you tell us about your character Mikayla on Cloak and Dagger, and what attracted you to that part?
Well, I can tell you that she meets Candy at a support group for battered women. Mm-hmm. So we know she's troubled, but she doesn't quite want to be there. She doesn't identify with the other women and victims in the room. And that's kind of as much as I can give, but we know that that's where she meets Candy and Melissa, who is Candy's mother. Candy is Dagger, for those of you unfamiliar.
Yes, and a quick program note, we are recording this conversation before Season 2 starts, and Cecilia is still under the non-disclosure agreement, but you understand I have to ask you what I can.
Yeah, absolutely. And we're so close.
We are very close. By the time this show airs, Cecilia, Season 2 will be up and running.
Awesome. What attracted me to it, I mean, it's a great role. I mean, I also didn't have a lot of information besides knowing what was going on with the first sort of, what I just gave, basically. A very basic breakdown of a woman who's a bit shy, but really warm, really friendly, and is sort of forced to come to this group by a close friend of hers. And that's as much as I knew going into it. But already off the bat, like, that can go so many different directions. You already have a backdrop for the kind of person that she is. So already it's interesting. Also, I was familiar with the show and the people working on it and stuff. And I mean, who doesn't want to be involved in a Marvel project, right?
Absolutely. Comic books. I mean, even though I've watched 3 of the shows from the first season, so even though it's a quote-unquote comic book show, it really isn't.
Yeah, no, I agree. I think the first season does a really good job with that, right? Like, it kind of avoids any formulaic path,
mm-hmm.
In regards to that classic comic book beginning, middle, end type of flow.
And again, from what you've been able to share with us about Mikayla, she very much fits in with many of the other characters in the Cloak and Dagger TV show universe.
Right. You're absolutely right.
Yeah.
I actually didn't even occur to me how a lot of her struggles are not super different from a lot of the other characters are struggling with inherently, like emotionally speaking.
Yeah.
You're right. That's a good point.
Yeah. Tandy and Dagger and Tandy's mom and some of the other characters, they all have some sort of baggage that, let's put it this way, they're not whole people, but that's part of what makes them interesting to watch.
Right. It's almost like everyone's, not so distant past is right behind them, It's like everyone's just entering and, turning a new leaf or about to turn a new leaf. So that's kind of where we meet Mikayla, which is similar to where we meet a lot of the characters. It's a really good point.
On the line with us is Cecilia Leal. Cecilia plays Mikayla on Marvel's Cloak and Dagger. Cloak and Dagger, by the time this program airs, Cloak and Dagger will be airing Thursdays on Disney's Freeform. Cecilia also appears opposite Haley Lou Richardson in the romantic drama 5 Feet Apart. 5 Feet Apart is playing in theaters everywhere. You kind of touched on this a few minutes ago, Cecilia, in that you were sort of given a broad strokes description of your character, before you started rolling. And I understand that your experience is not unlike a lot of the other actors' experience on the show, in that rather than being given a complete arc line or a complete season line, you sort of know what you know from show to show. I can imagine that can be both a challenge for an actor, but also kind of exciting for an actor. What are your thoughts on that?
I would say at first glance, it's stressful, right? At first glance at an actor, for me, coming from like my theater background and my like acting training background, I am always interested in having as much stuff on paper as I can so I can do the appropriate amount of homework, right? However, it's an excellent crash course in acting for television.
Yeah.
You know? It's just how the cookie crumbles. Like, that's how that works. And so, and I would say, obviously, especially for Marvel, who's especially secretive and things like that. But I would say, yeah, pros and cons there, right? Like, I ended up learning a lot very quickly. And I'm really relatively very new to acting for TV and film. Film and television is not where I was trained, and so I'm still learning a lot every time I work. So I would say, yeah, it was an incredible learning experience to be like, well, all I have is what's right in front of me, so this is what I'm going to work with. Yeah,
every actor hopes to have a successful series to be a part of. And for a young actor such as yourself to be part of a really big series, that's a great opportunity.
Absolutely. I'm so grateful. I mean, when I got it, I didn't even know. When I auditioned, all I knew was that it was one episode. Then when I got it, it was like maybe 3, or we don't know. And ultimately, I've been very, very lucky that I've been able to work on it as much as I have. And that was the other exciting factor of not knowing how much you're going to be in it, you know? It's just like, I just knew at the time I was going to be in the next coming episode, and I wouldn't know until I heard about the next coming episode. So in a way, it was a nice, eased process into this sort of like overwhelming idea of being a big part of this big show.
We're very lucky to spend a few minutes talking to Cecilia Leal. Cecilia Leal she'll be playing Mikayla in the second season of Marvel's Cloak and Dagger. Marvel's Cloak and Dagger airs Thursday nights on Freeform. Now let me ask you this, Cecilia.
Yeah.
You joined the cast in the second season. I know that sometimes it could be a challenge to join a successful show after it's launched the air, because even though at the end of the day everyone's in the same boat, you're also the new kid on the block. What was your experience joining the cast? Were they supportive?
Yeah, absolutely. So, I was definitely nervous, but everybody was incredible. Everyone welcomed me with open arms. Joe Patowski, the showrunner, was from my audition. I could feel the great energy. Olivia and Aubrey, who play Tyrone and Tandy, awesome. Everybody just super professional, super warm. Just everybody wants to encourage the best work out of each other as possible. So everyone just works really hard. It was a great, great environment to step right into.
Cloak and Dagger airs Thursdays on Freeform. Cecilia Leal, our guest this hour, plays Mikayla on Cloak and Dagger. She can also be seen in the feature motion picture 5 Feet Apart with Haley Lou Richardson. 5 Feet Apart is playing in theaters everywhere. How did you come to join the cast of 5 Feet Apart?
Well, funnily enough, I auditioned for a small role, like a nurse, or I think it was like a nurse role, and I actually got called back for this much bigger part, and that's kind of how it happened. Actually, I had the callback we went in together. They chose to hold the callback together for myself and the other person that plays the other friend. We play her best girlfriend from high school. Trina Lafargue is her name. And they actually called us in together because they wanted to get a chemistry of the two girls. And we both booked it. So they liked us together, and we booked it together. So I think that was an exciting thing to book a role with the other person that you auditioned with. That's how I got cast. the process was awesome. It's another just great cast, led by a great team. Justin Baldoni, who directed.
I understand that was like a 4 or 5 week shoot, which is not a lot of time.
Yeah, it's a true indie. I mean, it's not a big budget movie, and it was crazy. Yeah, really, just long hours, big days, and again, it's one of those sets where, like, you know, no time to spare. Everyone is just putting their best foot forward and working their bums off. That's another situation of young actors being, like, so professional. Haley Liu was just incredible to work with, so inspiring, and so talented. She really, really, really gets to show her chops in this movie. Same with Cole Sprouse, super professional. Everybody was just great.
And you correct me if I got my timeline wrong. You had already done some television before you filmed 5 Feet Apart, correct?
Yes, that is true.
Okay, so coming from television where you got to work fast, I'm sure that you drew from that.
Yeah, definitely.
So the idea of working fast and shooting a lot of pages and not a lot of time, that was not foreign to you.
No, but it was also my first professional movies. I kind of just was open-minded. Like, I didn't really know how it was going to go down. I was just was ready for whatever.
Yeah.
I was game.
And that is a good attitude for any performer to have, Cecilia, not just a young and relatively new to film and television, but just be open to any possibility, because you never know what one role will bring to another.
Yes, absolutely.
This may sound apropos of nothing, but hang with me on this.
Sure.
By the time this airs, it'll be April. April, of course, is Easter. When I think of Easter, I think of Jesus Christ Superstar.
My God.
And I understand that, because you mentioned you come from a musical stage background, I understand that earlier in your career you did a version of Jesus Christ Superstar.
Yeah. So I don't come from musical theater training. I come from just theater and experimental theater training. However, that being said, my program, it included some musical training, but I don't come from traditional musical theater training background. However, this play that we were doing happened to be a musical, and I happened to get cast in it. And yeah, the idea was that we were going to do a sort of contemporary experimental version of Jesus Christ Superstar. And we kind of turned it on its head, and we set it in a modern day Christian youth group. And we sort of created our own characters, and we did it all set to the music of the musical Jesus Christ Superstar. Now, it was going to Broadway that year, so people were especially on alert, and we got threatened to be shut down like a week before the play. So we had to learn all original music in about a week and completely sort of like adjust what we had made so that it could fit these new original music. And this was all led by our fearless director, Lear DeBessenet, and our musical director, Todd Almond, who are both like super, super incredibly successful theater makers in New York. And we basically used a lot of Todd Almond's original music, and he came and sort of edited lyrics here and there. But we learned all original music, harmonies, all of the above, in like maybe a week. It was crazy. It was absolutely crazy.
Well, not only was it absolutely crazy, here's my takeaway from that, Cecilia, is that it's not improv, but it kind of is improv in that you got to learn a whole new book in like no time.
Yeah, no, I think so. I think a lot of performance in general entails or includes some level of improvisation. Even just regular acting. I mean, what is improv if not, working moment to moment, accepting, like we were just talking about, being present and being game for whatever to happen.
Yeah, because as you just alluded, whether you're acting on stage or whether you're acting on Cloak and Dagger, from scene to scene, yes, you know what your line is going to be, and you know what your acting partner's line is going to be, but they may say it in a way that may trigger a reaction that, Yeah,
right, because the whole thing with acting is like you know what you're supposed to say and how you're supposed to feel about it, but the idea is that even though you know the line, it should feel like improv, right? Because we're trying to make it as real life as possible. If it doesn't feel like improvisation in that you're not predicting an emotion or projecting an emotion, it should feel like real improvisation in a way. Emotional improvisation, obviously, not with the dialogue, but you know what I mean.
I know exactly what you mean, and I know what I'm supposed to say next, which is on the line with us is Cecilia Leal. Cecilia plays Mikayla on Marvel's Cloak and Dagger. Cloak and Dagger airs Thursday nights on Freeform. Cecilia also recently played a young woman caught up in the violent events of The Purge. Season 1 of The Purge is available for streaming on demand. You can follow Cecilia on Twitter and on Instagram. Now, I saw I saw a little of the footage. I saw your footage. I watched your acting reel before.
Oh, nice.
And that includes a few of your scenes from The Purge. The Purge has a very interesting concept. If I understand it correctly, it takes place in a world where crime is allowed for one night a year as a deterrent.
Right.
What attracted you to the project? And for those who haven't seen the show, what can you tell us about your character?
It's awesome. It's like sort of one of those opportunities where the character is like balls to the wall, just out for vengeance, gets to hold a massive gun. There's barrels of fire behind me. I get like to wear outlandish hair and makeup and costume. It's one of those situations where you're like, how could I ever not want to do this? I mean, this is a blast. It's like an actor's dream, playing full dress up. Yeah, I mean, it's exciting. She was a suburban girl who was experiencing her first purge. Her older sister, who has experience in it and has done it before, is sort of leading their girl gang, and they've sort of taken over a street and barricaded it off and are ready to go ham, basically. And my character is a little bit too excited. And we come across some people that are trying to get past our barricade, and then the rest is how we decide to deal with these people. And I really want to take them out, but my sister insists that we need to take it easy.
Season 1 of The Purge is available for streaming on demand. Now, this may not have been the way you set out to start your film and TV career, but the way, as it happens, with The Purge, with Cloak and Dagger, and with the upcoming project you have for Netflix, you've done a lot of sci-fi fantasy. I mean, are you drawn to that genre?
Now that you say that, I didn't even think about that. No, that's like not at all what I ever thought I would be working on. I mean, I'm happy to be doing it.
Sure.
It's so fun, so interesting. But that's not something that I'm necessarily lean towards, even for stuff that I like to watch, even. It's not really usually the first thing I go for.
What do you look for in a character?
Well, I audition for most things that come my way. Mm-hmm. However, what I would like or what things that I want, I mean, I don't know. I think most of it is dependent on the writing, honestly, because a breakdown could say anything, but if you read a scene and see how the dialogue works and how people are interacting and how communication between characters is, that'll tell you way more about the character than what's written in a breakdown. So I think that's hard for me to nail down. I think I just kind of more know it when I see it, the dialogue at least.
And plus, going back to what you said earlier, I mean, you've got the right attitude for any actor in that you're open to whatever comes your way, and if there's something about it that makes you say, I can do this, or I get this, then you'll go for it.
I think the moments when I feel like, wow, this part, I connect to it. I can see myself being cast in this part. Mm-hmm. So Cloak and Dagger, Mikayla was from the get-go. When I read it, I was like, I could do this. This is a part that I really, I think, understand.
Cecilia Leal plays Mikayla in Cloak and Dagger. Cloak and Dagger airs Thursdays on Freeform. Cecilia will also be seen in an upcoming but as yet untitled sci-fi thriller from Netflix. What can you tell our listeners about this project?
I can tell you that this is a movie that's directed by Henry Jutes and Ariel Schulman. They're a fantastic movie-making duo who directed the movie Nerve, and they're the original producers of the Catfish documentary, the original documentary. They're awesome. The movie is stacked. Jamie Foxx, Joseph Gordon-Levitt, Machine Gun Kelly, like all kinds of these huge names, big, explosive cast. And it actually takes place in New Orleans. I think that's all I can say. I can tell you that my character interacts with Joseph Gordon-Levitt. All
right. We will look for that. It'll be easier to look for when it has a title. But in the meantime, you know...
I can't believe that hasn't been announced yet.
Yeah. In the meantime, you can follow Cecilia on Twitter at CCLeal478 and on Instagram at CC_Leal478. Cecilia Leal, you're a lot of fun. I hope we'll have a chance to talk to you again.
Thank you so much.
Herbie J. Pilata will join us when we come back on TV Confidential. Got a product or service that you want our listeners to know about? Become an advertiser or underwriter of TV Confidential and let our brand help promote your brand. For more information, go to televisioconfidential.com/advertise or visit the TV Confidential page at advertisecast.com. Ed Robertson along with Tony Figueroa and Donna Allen from Story Salon, Southern California's longest-running, regularly performing live storytelling ensemble, which I understand is a new location.
Yeah, we're very excited about it. We're moving, actually, to the Party Art Studio on Laurel Canyon Boulevard, 5302 Laurel Canyon. It's a new art gallery, and it's
beautiful.
It's beautiful. Donna and I have been involved with Story Salon for the last 9+ years. We're going to be in an art gallery now. We're going to have a $5 cover, some nice refreshments, and a wonderful eclectic evening of storytelling.
Which is a great environment because it as you say, the word is eclectic, and for $5, it's a great evening of entertainment. You can't ask for much more.
No, not at all. And these stories, some of them are funny, some of them are tragic, some of them are a little off the wall, but we just have a wonderful time keeping the art of storytelling alive.
And you can find out more about it by going to storysalon.com.
Accredited by Guinness World Records, welcome to Archival Television Audio Incorporated, a peerless TV soundtrack archive, preserving the audio from television's first 3 decades, the 1950s, 60s, and 70s, the golden and silver age of television.
For more information, go to atvaudio.com.
We're Biffle and Schuster. How do you do? That's right, folks. We're Biffle and Schuster. We want to tell you about this amazing misadventures of Biffle and Schuster. It's a DVD from Pino Lover, and you're going to love it.
We're Biffle and Schuster. It's terrific.
Yeah, you know what Joe Dante says about them?
What did he say?
He says, forehead slapping funny. What impresses is the dogged authenticity to the era, which makes it all the more hilarious.
Absolutely. Accent on the high.
We're
Biffle and Schuster, as you can see. No one else can make that statement louder than we. They say we're soporific, and it's probably we. Because we're Biffle and Schuster. Oh, we're Biffle and Schuster. No, we're Biffle and Schuster.
B-I-F-F-Biffle, Biffle. S-H-W-S to Schuster.
Biffle and Schuster. Need we say more?
Available wherever DVDs are sold through our friends at Kino Lorber.
All right, you loafers, get back to work. What am I paying you for?
Why is he yelling at his shoes?
You can listen to this show all over again as a podcast on TuneIn, iTunes, Spreaker, SoundCloud, Stitcher, and other podcast platforms. Best of all, it's free. To find out how to subscribe to the TV Confidential podcast, go to the homepage at televisionconfidential.com and click subscribe now.